Hello, everybody. Hello, welcome along to another one of these Light and Land live streams. Apologies, we're just a moment late. There's all sorts of technical things going on, people dialing in from all parts of the world here, so thank you for bearing with us. We have two guests with us today, and I'll just briefly introduce them, and then I'm going to set out the plan for tonight, because this is quite a specific live stream. We're going to be talking about printing and framing options for the exhibition in London, which you all know will be running in September, from the 2nd to the 7th of September. But firstly, we've got Dale with us and Petra, both from CEWE. Dale, please maybe just explain, Dale, what your role is within the company.
Okay, yeah, so I'm now the head of photo culture and quality at CEWE UK in Warwick. And basically, I'm there to help create partnerships with a lot of photo culture side of the business, so a lot of camera clubs and photography associations. But I'm also the quality manager of the lab as well, so making sure that all your products are printed to the perfect quality that we're expecting.
Excellent. And Petra, you are indeed the managing director, I believe, so maybe let us know how long you've been with CEWE and you're obviously in an overseeing role there.
Yes, thank you, Sam, and good evening to everyone. We're delighted to be here, and you're right, Sam. I'm the managing director of CEWE UK here in Warwick. I've took up this role 2 years ago, roughly, but I've been with the company for 10 years already. Previously, I used to be the international marketing director. And now I'm overseeing the operations in Warwick, including the lab. And in terms of the market, we are looking after the UK and the Republic of Ireland.
Fantastic. Okay, cool. Well, that gives everyone a little outline of Dale and Petra's roles. And as I say, tonight we're going to be talking through some of the options that CEWE have prepared specifically for anyone who wishes to exhibit at the exhibition in September. Now, just a tiny bit of housekeeping about that. We've talked on previous live streams with myself, Charlie, Waite, and Astrid about some of the spacing options, some of the benefits and positives of exhibiting your work, and I'm sure in the course of tonight we will talk a bit about that between us as obviously people who are interested in photography and especially the art of printing and how important it is to see and feel your work, and that's a huge thing to do. But if people have particular questions about the booking, the spacing, the costings, anything like that, do feel free to hit those in today, but we're going to cover that in another following live stream back with Charlie, Astrid and myself, where we're going to cover those things. Today is primarily about the printing and the framing options that CEWE can offer you. You can, of course, find solutions for your printing and your framing, but we've worked very hard with CEWE to come up with a nice array of options for you, and they've very kindly arranged a discount, and we'll tell you more about that and how you may be able to access that as we get further on into the live stream. Okay, but I hope with the experience of Dale and Petra, obviously in dealing with producing images at big scale and big quantities and all their printing knowledge, I'm hoping we might find some interesting things as well to do with how images can look on different papers, on different products and stuff like that as well. So that's basically the outline for tonight, and I really wanted to set that out at the beginning so everyone who's watching knows where we're going and everyone who's watching on the catch-up knows where we're going as well. Final thing before I hand over to Petra, who's going to give us just a little bit of background about the company, because I think it's quite a fascinating history. Actually, they've been around a very long time, and it obviously speaks to the reputation and all the quality that they can offer. But I would say if there are questions tonight about the products, so about the paper types, about the frames, about the different, because there's going to be 2 or 3 different ways they can offer to print for you, do let us know here on the live stream, and I will put those questions to Dale and or to Petra, whatever it may be relevant. And if you're watching this on catch up, you can put an email into admin@lightland.co.uk and we will try and pick up on that as well. All right. Lots of talking, lots of housekeeping, but I think it's really important because there's such a specific thing going on tonight. I can see that a few of our regulars are on this live stream already, so we'll just say hello to them. Hazel, and you'll see, guys, we get a lot of people from all around the world. James over in Canada, Dave is in Germany, Isle of Wight, etc., and so on and so forth. And Astrid's joining us from Valencia as well. So, as ever, everyone, we do appreciate you being with us. I am going to just get into the slideshow, and we will share that with everyone so you guys can see that. And at this point, Petra, I can pass to you, perhaps for you just to talk a little bit about the history of the company, if we can.
Yes, Sam. So we thought we'd give a bit of a history because probably not everybody of you have heard about us beforehand. And as Dale has introduced himself as head of photo culture, you might have been as well stumbling upon that title for a photo lab. And I just wanted to give you a bit of history to where we stand, what we do, and why we are actually as well delighted to work with Light and Land on an exhibition, and why we are actually having the position of a head of photo culture as well. So as you can imagine, the photo industry underwent a lot of changes in the past decades. And our company actually already started in 1912. So it's over a century old already. And we have gone through major transformation during that time. It all started with actually a photo studio. And that is probably why we are rooted as well so much in photo culture and just love photography as such, and not just the printing of photos, but the overall cultural aspect of photography, really. It was started in 1912 by a couple called Karl and Helene Wölche, and that's actually where our name is as well coming from. It's the initials of Karl Wölche, so CW, and pronouncing it in German, you would come to CEWE then, as it was founded in the northern part of Germany in Oldenburg, where still today our headquarters are. He actually developed together with his wife the business into a true camera retailer business, and became a large photo retailer, especially in the 20s of the last century. And as well, after the Second World War, he continued to grow the business. After the Second World War, his only daughter married Heinz Neumüller, and he actually entered as well the business and saw how the whole topic of photography picked up amongst a wider range of people, especially the Germans loving to travel, and they love to take photos. And he saw that it was developed at the back office of his father-in-law. And then he actually thought, well, can't I really create a efficient production around developing films? And that is why CEWE Color back then was established in 1961, actually on the first floor, just above the store of his father-in-law. And he transformed this company then into a true photo wholesale company with a big professional lab in the background. And obviously using the word color in his company's name already showcased at this point in time, doing colored prints was a big thing back then. So in 62, we then moved to today's premises. And from there on, the company's history was really developed, with the heart being now in photo finishing and running photo labs, which we do across Europe. And we nowadays still operate 14 different photo labs across Europe in various countries. And of course, we have undergone since the 60s a lot of additional changes. So starting out from the analog, then you all can imagine the digital revolution happened, and suddenly film was actually not the focus anymore, and digital photography took over very, very quickly, especially around the millennium. And that changed our whole business quite significantly. And unfortunately, as well, some of the big brands everybody knew back then in the photo industry didn't survive this transformation anymore. We went with it, and we developed our product portfolio into a new direction, using a lot of digital printing as well, and creating new product categories. So expanding from prints and posters really into products such as the CEWE photo book, or calendars, or different kind of personalized photo gifts as well. And then actually we expanded as a company into the UK, and in 2005 we acquired Standard Photographic here in Warwick, and you see the little picture of the team standing in front of the building, and actually a lot of this team is still nowadays working with us, which is our big pleasure to have kept them on board, and we are still at the same premises. So from the outside, nothing has changed, but from the inside, a lot has changed because we transformed as well this lab completely in a very professional digital printing lab, where we are actually able to not only produce prints in the traditional photographic paper version, and Dale will go into more detail into quality afterwards, but we are producing as well in Warwick enlargements, posters, different kind of wall arts such as canvases or acrylics, but as well we do produce here photo gifts such as mugs, greeting cards, and of course photo books and calendars as well. So it's a wide portfolio which nowadays is being produced here in the UK directly, and which is continuously being worked upon to improve printing quality, as this is our key focus point really as a company, the quality of our products. We want to make the quality, which is a professional standard quality, accessible to consumers across the countries. But as you can imagine, then another transformation hit the company and the whole industry, and that was the move from cameras actually to mobile phones. As you can imagine, nowadays more photos are being taken than ever before, but people are not printing maybe as much anymore because the need is not there, and a lot of the younger generation have never had this need of printing. And now the next transformation is hitting, and that is, of course, artificial intelligence. I think a topic which is interesting for all of us. For example, as well, the question is a photo generated by artificial intelligence actually a photo, or is it maybe just another form of art? One of the big questions we are as well discussing internally as a company. But on the other hand, of course, artificial intelligence allows us to present far more services to help and support our customers as well. For example, in the choice of photos for their different kind of photo products. Overall, nowadays we are present in 21 countries. We run 14 labs across Europe. We are operating with several brands. Some of you might have heard already of Whitewall, for example, or Cheers, which are as well sister company of ours. But we deliberately position each brand very distinctively from one another and keep the brands because they all have different kind of targets and services to offer. We have over 4,000 employees across Europe. We do as well instant printing. Some of you might have seen it already at Boots, for example, or if you're dialing in from Germany, you might have seen it at DM or Rossmann, where we operate kiosks, our CEWE photo stations, where you can instantly print as well prints. And having said, printing is maybe not the thing the youth is doing intuitively as we have learned it. We can still see that people love to print because it's just something else, whether you have a photo on a digital device or whether you have something tangible in hand. So just to give a bit of an outline, we produced in 2022 5.8 million CEWE photo books and actually 2.28 billion prints and photos. And I think that shows that we all have something in common, and that's really the love of photography and of printing as well, our most beloved photos. And I think today it's all around printing. So I would hand over to Dale, who will be able to talk a bit more about our quality in terms of printing and the different types of printing we can offer, especially for the Light and Land exhibition at the mall then in September this year.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you, Petra. So there's going to be three main products that we're discussing this evening. They will be framed prints, aluminium prints, and gallery prints. And we will start off first of all with the framed prints, because this is the one where we have the most options that you can select. So for the frame print, we're either going to be printing, you can choose to print on a photographic paper, photographic material, or inkjet printing. And these are all framed in a wooden frame with acrylic glass, so behind acrylic glass. This is kind of the classic way of exhibiting for exhibitions. So most exhibitions now, it will kind of all be framed prints, but you'll see a bit later on that there are other options which are a bit more contemporary, which you can select. So we do a wide range of colours in the wooden frames, but we've picked out 3 which we think are the classic ones, which is black, white, and a pine. These are all, you can pick these with mount or without mount. And for framed posters, we offer 10 different sizes. I won't read them all out to you there, but they're all there on the screen. With 6 paper types and 2 different printer processes. And I've just, in true Blue Peter fashion, I've got some made here, so we can see them physically as well. So this is, I just need to move back a bit. This is obviously a 30 by 40 or 20 by 30 size, no, sorry, 30 by 45 size, unmounted. This is actually a inkjet print, so, or a giclée print on fine art paper. And then this one is the same with a mount. And you can see when we go through a bit through the ordering process, you can see that you can position your images there perfectly. So even though this one's got a mount, we're not losing any of the image, as opposed to this one without a mount as well. So you can really position your image in that software so you're not losing anything at all, really. So yeah, next, yes.
So sorry, one just because I suppose I'm here as the voice of the audience for this in a way, and I also wanted to just remind people watching. Basically, the CEWE as the company have a myriad of options, but we've worked, as Dale has alluded to refine this down to a selection of options for you on the frames, on the paper types, and on the couple of other ways of doing it, which Dale's going to explain later. And what there is there's a specific URL which is valid for anybody who's choosing to exhibit. Okay, so if everyone's out there is watching, we have a URL that can take you to a curated selection, or which will be the choices we're going to cover tonight. And there is also a discount available for everyone who is exhibiting, and that discount is accessible through that URL, and we would obviously share that with the people who are exhibiting. So I just want to be really clear on that you would have a URL to go to where these options would be displayed again for you, and Dale will walk us through them. And again, you can use that discount. Now, you can only access that specific URL and these specific options when you are signed up to exhibit, for fairly obvious reasons. And the office, the Light and Land team, can help you very easily access all this information. I just wanted to throw that in there right now, just to kind of remind people of that thing. And then I'm going to throw back to you, Dale. I'm operating the slides, so feel free to tell me to move on, just because of the system we're using tonight. But hopefully, I mean, and actually, just before we do, Dale, I don't want to hit your flow here. You did mention, you know, for many people, it's certainly in the more traditional, which may be more of the outdoor landscape photography world, has always been, the classic framed print with mount is probably one of the most popular options, isn't it? Do you guys see that in your sales as well, for that demographic and that type of work?
Yes, definitely. But I say with the new ones now, with the new direct printing that we have on foam board or aluminium or the acrylics, we definitely see those coming up as well now more, and just for a different, more contemporary way of exhibiting your work, basically. So yeah, it's definitely rising.
And the great democracy of this exhibition, which I'll point out again is in September 2nd to the 7th at the Mole Galleries, is that there is no great theme other than it being outdoor, and we are not, as in Light and Land, restricting anybody really as to how we recommend you print, frame or present. We talked in a previous live stream about how you might curate your space, and what we tried to do in that was show you a myriad of different ways. So the individuality of you and your work and how it's best presented, we hope these options give you enough choices there. I absolutely think they do. And then how you position them is up to you. But as we've said before, we're always on hand to help. Dale, let me throw back to you because you've mentioned, and maybe I'll move the slide if you say, there's different paper types and there's a couple of processes. So do you want to hit a bit of that?
Yes, of course. Yeah. So if we move on to the next slide. So yeah, so these are the paper options that we have available for the framed prints. We have 4 of them, which are actually a true photographic paper. So we have a premium matte, a premium glossy, a silk, and a pearl, and then 2 which are more, well, they're inkjet printing or fine art G-clay printing, which is a classic paper, and then a fine art premium matte as well for that. There's various reasons why you'll pick certain different types of paper and different kinds of printing processes. So first of all, about the papers. So obviously, premium matte is matte, gloss is glossy. The silk paper is it kind of has a slight texture to it. So it kind of appears like it is a bit of a textured paper, which is really gives a very nice matte finish. And the pearl kind of gives a very more metallic look to your images. It's kind of, pearl is sometimes really good for architecture or I would say car photography really, because it's kind of really emphasizes the metallicness and stuff like that. Where you've got the classic matte and gloss, or just depending on how you want your image to appear, basically. And then we have the classic paper and the fine art matte. So the classic is a semi-gloss paper, and the fine art matte is a true matte paper. And this is kind of, it's a very, it seems like a very handmade material. It's very textured and very heavy in weight. So yeah, it's a really nice flat finish to that. I think if we move on to the next slide.
And I'm just going to say one thing, Dale. Sorry. If there are questions, if I've seen a couple come in, do keep them in. I think what we'll do, just because we're jumping between and I'm doing slides and Dale's trying to keep his flow while I keep interrupting him, I'll just make a point where we can just pick up on a few questions in one session. So I think we'll just go through it. If you're watching out there and you have a question, hit it in the comments and we'll get to them and we'll hit them all off at the end. I think that's probably the best way.
Yeah, I think so. Okay, so first of all, about the printing processes. So this one, first of all, is talking about photographic paper or digital C-type printing. This is the traditional way of printing photographs. So this is layers of dye and then held in an emulsion. And when exposed to light or the image is exposed onto the paper, they're then developed using the chemistry process. So it's, a very traditional way of printing your photographs. The paper we use for this is Fuji Crystal Archive DP2. It's the highest professional grade paper. This paper has an extremely wide color gamut. So when I talk about color gamut, it's all about the amount of color that the paper can use to kind of reproduce your images. Again, it's archival quality, and when I talk about archival quality, it's about how long the color fastness or how long the image clarity will last. For archival quality, it's kind of around 70 to 100 years, depending on, obviously, conditions that you're displaying your images in. If it's in direct sunlight, then it could be a little lower than that. But yeah, it's kind of guaranteed for a minimum of 70 years. So yeah, these are printed. Our printers at CEWE use a laser. So it's a laser printing. So we have the images digitally, and then using lasers, a red, green, and blue laser, it kind of creates the image onto the paper or onto the emulsion or exposes the image. And then through developer, bleach, fix, and wash, it's then develops the image. The very good thing about photographic printing, again, is that extremely wide color gamut. And basically with this, it kind of produces really nice, smooth, continuous tones. So like subtle changes in color that the photographic paper is really good at reproducing. And again, retaining those shadows in the, retaining those details, in the shadows. Photographic paper is really good for that because it has a lot of information or a lot of color to play with, basically. Okay, so next slide is about fine art printing or fine art paper. So as I said, we use a classic paper, or we call it a classic paper, and this is a semi-gloss finish or the fine art matte. This is kind of class, when you hear the term giclée fine art printing, this is what it is basically. We're using very high quality 12 color printers, which use pigment ink. Again, for their archival quality, the ink will stay color fast for 100 years at least. And yeah, they're extremely high resolution printers. So we currently print at 1440 dpi on these inkjets that we have. And yeah, the 12 colors, this again kind of helps us increase that color gamut that we can use to help produce your photography. Because obviously, you all know, you take your images and you look at them on your screen or on the camera, and what your screen can produce has a lot of color information, and the images contain a lot of color information. So we obviously are using ink to kind of reproduce all that color information. So for these inkjet printers, they're 12 colors. They have the classic red, green, and blue, also cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. And then we have stuff in there like matte black, photo cyan, photo magenta, and this is all to just increase that space, basically, to get those subtle changes in color. So yeah, for the pros to inkjet printing basically is because it uses very fine nozzles to spray the ink basically onto the paper, it produces extremely sharp images with very fine detail. So sometimes with photographic printing, because it's using the light to kind of expose the image, they can appear a little soft sometimes, but with the inkjet printing, it can produce a very fine, detailed, sharp image. Okay, next slide, please. Oh, right, so quick already. I thought I was going to geek out a bit more on the photographic printing.
I'm not dragging you deep on that just yet.
No, okay. Okay, so then we have aluminium printing. Okay, so this is basically what we do here is we have aluminium sheet, which has a black plastic core, and we print directly onto the material. So this is what I have here that I made earlier. So this is kind of an aluminium sheet and then printed directly on. What this produces, as you can probably see as I'm holding it, I can see my glasses are reflecting lots of light, but you can see from the aluminium that it's not really reflecting much light. And that's a big pro of aluminium printing. It produces a very nice, smooth matte finish. And again, it's a form of inkjet printing that we use to produce these, but it's called a UV printing, because what we're doing, we're laying ink down onto the material, and the materials that we're using are non-porous, so they can't absorb the ink. So basically we have UV curable ink. So as the printhead is moving along, it's curing the ink directly onto the material. So it kind of, seals the ink basically onto that material, so it can't be wiped off. Again, these are inkjet printers. These are only 4 colors. So just cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. But we have lots of ICC profiles, color profiling to make sure that your images are reproduced exactly as they should be. So it does, through color profiling and lots of workflow setup, that it uses the very high quality printers that kind of reproduces your files and your images. Again, they're very sharp because of that inkjet process. We can get very fine detail in there. And with these aluminium prints, I haven't listed all the sizes because we do so many different sizes. And we even do bespoke sizing as well. So when you order, you can order a bespoke size. So yeah, if you have a look on our website or the link when you go to it, you will see all the amount of sizes that we produce on here. We basically print on large sheets and then we cut them down to the exact size that they should be. Okay. Oh yeah, so here's basically, this is what the printer looks like. Yeah, and I've already described all the process of the UV printing. Okay, so the next product that we have is gallery prints. These are produced the same on our UV printers, but what this product is we basically print on acrylic. We print onto the reverse of an acrylic, and then we mount a sheet of aluminium onto the back as well. So you can see it's quite thick. It's a nice heavy piece, and it's a very high quality product for displaying your work. But as you can see again, then because of the acrylic, it produces a lot of reflections as well. So it's, as opposed to the aluminium, which has hardly any reflection, but from the acrylic, there's reflections. Again, that kind of, it depends on your imagery that you're using, because that can be a feature that you want, because behind glass or behind the acrylic, that gloss finish really enhances contrast. So if you've got a scene with quite deep shadows and you want to retain that darkness in the shadows, then the acrylic or the gallery print is very good for that because it kind of just emphasizes it even more. If you want the smoother, more subtle finish, then an aluminium print will probably be better for you. And again, they use, it's exactly the same printing process, exactly the same printing technique. But I forgot to mention, on mounting options for the products. So you can see on this one, we have some holes drilled in to the product already. And that is because, especially when exhibiting in a public space, we have to make sure that the images are firmly attached to the walls and can't easily be taken off by someone that shouldn't be taking them off, basically. So what we've suggested, which when you order the product, it will have on there what we suggest for your exhibition printing is to order, well, the product will be ordered and then with some chrome posts. So these posts are basically little metal posts that will go through those holes, and it allows you to drill it directly into the wall, basically. So once these are drilled in and attached, they won't come off the wall unless they're all unscrewed. So it's a very safe way of attaching your products. And the same with the wooden frames. They're currently supplied with hanging system at the back, and this is just a normal hanging system. But because why we're suggesting the wooden frames is because with this you can attach your own mirror plates, and then you can screw them directly into the wall for that security when exhibiting.
Cool.
Okay. So next slide. Yeah, again, this is the slide basically just describing how the gallery prints are produced. So we print on acrylic and then apply an aluminium backing. Okay, so onto ordering your products. So as Sam has said, we have a link which is just for Light and Land customers. When you go into that link, it will come up with the actual page. and a lot of information about us as a sponsor. And then it will highlight the 3 main products that we're suggesting. It's very easy. You basically will just select the image or the product that you want, and straight away you'll go straight to our ordering page. Now here we've got the paper types. So this is where this one is for the framed product or the framed print. You can basically select your paper types in the top. Then the next option is your size, what orientation it is, if it's landscape or portrait. Highlights is something that it's probably not suitable for your exhibits. This is highlights is basically about adding text or gold highlights, for instance, to your images, which obviously you will not be doing. And then the next one is basically the frame, and you can see there, although it's very small, it says wooden frame, and it says please select for light and land exhibition. So it's kind of highlighting which ones would be suitable for the exhibition. Yes, and then it will, once you are ready to continue with your order, you'll go into our ordering software. I've circled at the top there in the top left. This is basically where you upload your images. You can upload as many images as you like, and then it's a simple drag and drop. So you would drag your image across onto the product. If you've selected a mount, for instance, it will show you a preview of where the mount is as well. So this is where you can position your image, so you're not losing any of those important aspects of your photography. Okay, next slide. So now this one's quite important, especially in terms of quality and what you're expecting to receive. So as a default, the ordering software is, we have something called automatic image optimization. As a default, this is set on, but I suggest if you have edited your images yourself, then you will need to turn this off, basically. It's, again, it has, as Petra alluded to earlier, we do use a lot of AI and a lot of things that help our customers to order our products or for their images to look the best. So we have this option. So I've highlighted there, when you select your image, you will find a settings tab, for instance. If it's not there, then click on the little 3 dots underneath your image and it will appear. So when you select settings, then if we can go on to the next page, it's just there at the bottom. You can adjust brightness and contrast and saturation, but obviously you've already all done this yourselves beforehand. So yeah, and then it's just a little toggle switch, so toggle that to off. So basically what this would do, well, if the image optimization is on, it basically adjusts your image to how we think it should look. So it will kind of lighten the shadows, it will increase saturation and apply color corrections. Obviously, you want your images to look exactly as they are when you order them. So turning this off basically will mean that whatever you send in is what we print, and there will be no adjustments done by us at all. The only thing that it will go through is a color profile for whatever paper it's being printed on, basically. So yeah, you'll see it exactly true to how you're expecting. But again, as you're probably aware, with the printing process, whenever you print anything, it will always appear slightly darker than what it does on your screen or on the back of your camera, for instance. Kind of depends on how your screens are calibrated. A lot of you might have already calibrated your screens to compensate for actually printing. But because basically for looking at imagery from printed, it's more of a reflective. So it will kind of it could appear slightly darker than what you can see on your screen. So if you're preparing your image to print, then it's always good to slightly brighten it or slightly enhance the brightness, and then it should print out exactly as you want. So then once you're ready, the products will be added into your shopping basket. There's a couple of ways now to increase the images or increase by more products, for instance. So you can either duplicate the product and then just edit that one and then run through the whole process again. It's kind of a nice seamless way of using the software. Or you can click add product, and then it will take you all the way back to the beginning where you select your frame or your gallery or aluminium printing. So if you're doing just pure framed products or pure aluminium, it's probably best to just duplicate the product and then just edit that one, and then it will kind of just take you straight back to the editor. So it's just a bit of a quicker shortcut way of ordering the products. And that's kind of a very brief explanation of some of our paper types and products and some of the processes that we use.
Cool. Thank you very much, Dale. There's been a few questions, and I've got a couple I wanted to throw at you as well.
Okay.
And just, I'll try not to bury you. Obviously, just before I even say these, there's two types of people watching this live stream, either live or on the catch-up. People who've already booked to take part in this exhibition, or people who haven't booked yet. So let me just remind everyone of those two different camps. I'm going to say just one thing for you both. If you have already booked and you've got your space paid for, we're going to contact you from Light and Land with a link to the CEWE specific Light and Land page where you can access with the 20% discount. And you'll be able to see the three options, three different types, and then the multitude of options underneath those that are available to you. And you can always watch back through this live stream to hear some of the explanations, and they do explain them on the website as well. So if you're in the I've already booked camp, we're going to be able to give you the link, you'll be able to get the discount, and you'll be able to order your stuff, and it will come to you in due course, and all that good stuff. If you haven't booked your space yet, and you're thinking of booking, I would obviously encourage you to do so. It's a fantastic thing to take part in. It's going to be very interesting to see all the different photography there. And as I've said earlier on, we are not restricting anyone to display in a particular way or a particular theme, as long as it's outdoor. And so you can really get quite creative about how you show and how you fill your space. Most of the spaces are between 2 meters and 3 meters, or some variation thereof, vertically or horizontally. And you can see a full map of the spaces on the lightandland.co.uk website. In the exhibition area, you can see the spaces, so you can work out where you'd like to be, and all the pricing is there as well. Obviously, you pay for the space, you pay for your printing, and you can then be in situ in September and get your stuff on the wall how you want it to be. And any sales at all are all yours. Everything you may make from any sales are yours to keep. But more importantly, sometimes than the sales, although it's nice to clear your costs, is the fact that you will have taken part in a fairly unique exhibition in the UK, in that it's such a broad church, open to a vast variety, a range of people, showing work from all sorts of places in the world. You can invite your friends there, family, all the rest of it. And if you're out there and you're on the fence, maybe you feel a bit unsure, is your work good enough, or is it too difficult technically to get the printing ready? No, it is all very doable, and we will be able to help you and see we can help you with products, and it really is well worth thinking about. Now, with that little bit of chat over, let me get to a couple of the questions from the viewers, and then I will add a couple of things in as well. So let's just start with an easy one to warm us up. So Dale, are the silk and the pearl semi-gloss? This is Catherine.
Okay, yeah. So the pearl is a full gloss, so it will appear just as glossy as our standard glossy paper. The silk is more of a matte. There's no reflection on the silk. And surprisingly, because of the texture of the silk paper, if you put silk and premium matte next to each other, the silk will appear more matte than the matte paper, surprisingly. It's just because of that texture, it just breaks up that fragmentation and creates a fragmentation of that light, so it just produces more of a flatter image.
Silk is often used in photo books as well, isn't it? It's a good material for using on sort of high-end photo books. Okay, another question here, which is a very tricky one because it's all to do with your own setup and everything else, but I'll read it out. How do you help us ensure that the end result looks like our vision? I can calibrate at home for the paper, but I find you don't truly know what something will look like until you print it.
Yeah, that's it is a difficult one. We have a lot of information on our website about the best way of calibrating your screen, especially for paper, but it's more about, for me, what I found, it's more about the brightness of your screen, and kind of the ambient light that you're working in as well. Because if it's if it's a dark area where you're working, your brightness will be lower. If it's quite bright, then your brightness will be higher, and then there could seem a lot bigger difference. So we have a lot of information on our website about the best way or the best settings for your screen that will kind of help achieve what you want. We've done some testing. I was at a quality workshop a few weeks ago in Germany, and we were testing out the image optimization and enhancement. And I sent in a image which I very quickly edited on my phone. And I was surprised that well, not surprised really, but I was surprised at how close it actually was to what I was seeing on my phone screen, to what I actually printed. The image optimization done some weird and wonderful things to it. This is why I'm saying about turning the optimization off. But yeah, we aim to hit as close as possible. You'll never know for definite until obviously you get the product. And unfortunately, we can't really provide any of our color profiles that we use, just because these are updated continually, and they're for all the different paper types and different machine types. So we'll basically be sending you color profiles every week, just because we're always maintaining them, basically. So all the information for what we suggest will be on our website. I don't know off the top of my head, unfortunately, but it will all be there for a read.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, and I think that's absolutely it, because there's so many variables. But I think if you're operating at home, this is my opinion, nothing official here, but if you're operating with a well-calibrated screen and you're using soft proofing in your development software, perhaps, pay attention to the brightness of your own screen, use the CEWE recommendations there as well. And also, if you're using Lightroom, think about what color you're having as the backdrop. Is it white? Is it light grey? Is it dark? Because if your backdrop on your editing is very dark, the image in the editing module will seem a lot brighter than it actually is. So right-click on the background, change it to white, and you'll see pretty much more of a true brightness of what your image is. That's a little Lightroom thing. And Astrid here, I agree, screen brightness is crucial. Many screens are too bright, so it's really important to pay close attention. And obviously Petra and Dale, we're all kind of agreeing on that. Vern has asked, again, a tricky question, and I'm going to ask it and then I'm just going to frame it, so to speak, a little bit myself. But Vern says, what are the 2 or 3 optimal dimensions of a frame that make your photographic work shine and are best suited in galleries without looking too small? Now, I'll just, while you digest that, Dale, I will just say that this is a fairly large space in the exhibition. The Mall Galleries is quite a large space. We are subdividing those spaces into 2 to 3 meter generally segments. There are a couple of different sizes though within those. So before I throw to Dale, I would just say personally to mock up an example of your 2 to 3 meter in Photoshop or something. You don't have to use that sizing, but 2 by 3 or 3 by 2.5 or whatever it might be. and then imagine your frames within that and try to understand the concept. It's probably the answer to the question I'm going to let Dale go at, but it is probably absolutely relevant to the space you're putting it in, which is very difficult necessarily to comment on here. But any thoughts extra on that, Dale, as regards prepping or foreseeing that, or pre-visualizing it maybe?
Yeah, exactly. So I agree. It's obviously about the space and how much you have to use, and then also how much space you want to put in between the images or in between the pieces that you're displaying, um, and how many you want to display in that area as well. So the kind of there's a nice classic, like I've gone for these, which is like a 30 by 40, which is kind of nice. It's like a AA4 size, for instance. Or then another one. So, for instance, if you want to display 6 of those, it's kind of a nice space with a nice gap between each one. Or then if you've got something a bit more grander, or you want to have like a grand image or a real statement, then you can then look at going to a 40 by 60 size or 50 by 75, even our largest one. But then obviously that narrows down then how many images you'll be able to display, because again, if you have a lot of 50 by 75s and you're trying to cram them all in with not enough space between the frames, then it could just be a bit too overwhelming. So yeah, I think the space in between the frames is kind of an important one for the viewer as well, basically.
Yeah, final thought on that. Absolutely right. Think of the whole area as a picture of its own. In how you would compose an individual image, you need to think about your whole area being composed sensibly within it. And one thing I would just say, Vern, if you haven't already watched the previous live stream with myself, Astrid, and Charlie Waite, we talked about how to curate, we talked about various ways you might want to curate your images within spaces generally. And that was an open conversation. It wasn't a do X, Y, Z. It was a here's a way you could do it. Here's another way. You could go big and bold and just have one massive image in there and say, bang, here I am. That's £1,000. Go for it. Because someone walking in London might think that's going to look cool in my £1 million apartment. And hey ho, you just sold it. Or you might have a very delicate set of abstracts which work as a sort of set of 9, or who knows. So there's no right or wrong. It's just to have a plan, I suppose, and know why you're doing that with yourself, if you can explain it to yourself. So thank you. There's a couple of other things I want to hit, and then we're going to wrap it up, because Petra, Dale, I really appreciate all the time you've given us, and I'm sure everyone watching does. Everyone's hung around and watched throughout the whole show, which is really cool. So I've got a question. File prep. We've talked obviously about exporting at the optimal brightness and with your editing already done. In terms of file type, is there something that you guys recommend, and sizing and or file type is what I'm really angling at?
So file type, we can obviously work with JPEGs and TIFF files as well. We can work with those, which are probably the ones that I suggest. And also just touching on in terms of color space, for instance, we always suggest to upload your images in an sRGB color space. We work with the standard, which a lot of printers do, of sRGB. I know there's Adobe RGB as well, for instance, which is a bigger color space. We can now work with files as well through Adobe RGB, but we kind of say if it's sRGB, that's the one that we mainly prefer. Just because sometimes, depending on the clipping and stuff, for instance, you could have some weird things happen with Adobe RGB. But although with the latest update in our ordering process, then it has been dealing with those files absolutely fine.
Okay, and so maybe sRGB, you're even more likely to get what you think you're going to get out of the pieces. So, in terms of just one thing actually about the framed images, and you mentioned with the inkjet, you're printing those at 1400 DPI. Would you suggest though that is it necessary to prep your file it's not at that high, is it? So what would
No,
there be a
it's
setting
definitely
you would
not.
recommend?
I mean, we kind of always recommend around 300 dpi anyway.
Yep.
And this is kind of true to all of our printers. We kind of say to a customer, all 300 dpi. Going any above that, you can start getting quite unnatural. It can be seeming quite over sharpened, for instance, especially on photographic paper as well. We have our printers for the photographic paper, for instance, they were upgraded to produce 600 dpi images, but actually the quality or what we wanted to achieve was better at 300 dpi, so we lowered them back down basically to use the 300 dpi just because it gives a more pleasing image.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I suggest 300 dpi and it will be perfect.
Great. Two last things to hit, and then we are going to be out of here. Charlotte, who's actually one of our Light and Land tour leaders, has also said, yes, related to the last question, if you have a space on a wall at home, you can place pieces of paper on the wall and get a great feel for the layout. That's a great tip, Charlotte.
Yeah.
Everyone will be up at home now holding up their pictures to the wall. Well, their husband or wife thinks they've gone mad. One thing, and I haven't prepped you on this, so I hope I'm not throwing you under the bus. Is there a way to purchase a sample pack on the paper so that people can see that? Do you guys offer that? Sorry, I should have checked this before.
Currently not for the wall art types or the. We do have sample packs for our CEWE photo books, for instance, and the paper types there. But they are slightly different for our wall art products. But it's something that we're definitely working on. Obviously, we all want customers to print, and it's a lot better to touch and feel the product and see what it looks like. So yeah, we're working on those. So hopefully they'll be available soon.
Okay, but we've covered a good amount of how those papers vary.
Yeah. If I may jump in, I'm sure if you have questions while you are in the process of ordering, feel free to call our customer service. And I'm sure as well, I'm just speaking for Dale now on his behalf, if there are some key questions, they will definitely ask Dale as well, because as he said, he's our quality manager. So please do feel free to call. We have our customer service in-house, so it's really our own people who know quite a bit about the products and about the materials and have a very quick reach out then to Dale as well. And in terms of getting a feel for the products, as Dale rightly so said, we currently don't have the sample set for the wall art. But if any one of you is at the photography show in Birmingham in March, come by our stand, come see us, and you will be able to feel and touch as well a lot of our products, and some of it you'll see as well in your booth store, where we have as well quite a few samples. So at least a tendency is already there where you can easily get hold of some samples to really feel them.
Great. Thank you, Petra. That's great. And I'm sure people can find their way to that. And or, as I say, and as you said, I'll put my ears back in. Dale and anyone of the team can help you if you've got questions about that as you're ordering. So thank you so much, Petra. Thank you so much, Dale. It's been really great to have you on. Hopefully everyone watching has got a good understanding of what is being offered here. If not, watch us back, and or of course get hold of the CEWE team and or get hold of the Light and Land team, and we can sort that out for you. And just to reiterate again, if you've already booked, we can send you the URL where you can access with the 20% discount. If you haven't booked yet, you would need to place a booking to access all of these products and the special offers and the discount that CEWE have very kindly put together. And I think between us all, we can say that obviously there's a lot of choice there, and I think you can really put something fantastic together for your space in this exhibition. But Petra, thank you very much.
Thank you for having us, Sam, and we're looking forward to all the great photos.
Yes, absolutely. Don't forget to go out and shoot, everyone. And Dale, thank you as well for all your time and all the prep with the PDF. Thank you for coming on board.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
And for everyone out there watching, we will be back in a few weeks, date to be confirmed, with myself, Charlie and Astrid is the plan. We're going to do a final wrap up of the exhibition, a bit more again about the curating, cover any questions that have cropped up about the products. And we've also got some very exciting news about the promotion, because there's been a couple of nice big things coming together on that in terms of some really big coverage that's going to help get the word out there about the exhibition, which will make it even more worthwhile for everyone to be there. So from me, from Dale, from Petra, good night. Thank you for watching. We'll see you again very soon. Cheerio.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.